Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Lair. In today's video we're discussing factions and how to use them effectively in your TTRPG campaigns. I did a live stream quite recently, which is up on my Patreon, where I cover this topic more at length, going as far as to work on my version of factions for the Baramaze module. I'm aware that some of my subscribers are running the module or are planning to, so check that out if you wish. But what I did was define the various factions of the Baramaze and make them dynamic enough so my groups can kind of interact with them in more interesting ways. And I mean, why shouldn't I? Especially in a sandbox game where the players can shift and change the story depending on kind of what's going on in the world. Allowing your players to interact with a local tribe of goblins, for example, could allow for new plot hooks and quests to emerge in the future. This is really good as it shows your players that the world is living and breathing and changing constantly. That things are really open and free rather than just kind of moving like a carousel around the players. And this works well no matter what kind of game you're running. It can be used whilst travelling, like I said, or it could be used in a mega dungeon like the Baramaze, for example, as long as there are factions present within the dungeon, which in mega dungeons there are. This way you can use this by either making set piece encounters. I know a lot of you guys talk about doing that in your games, where you kind of prepare the random encounters in advance and have these cool ideas. Or you could just create custom random encounter charts for a faction's territory. And territory is something that I definitely figured out in my live stream. So here's a map of the Barrymores, the swampland and the main outdoor play area for the module. And this is the updated map with the faction colours added. As you can see, I've decided to position the factions in various places, creating borderlands between them, as well as areas where there are no factions present, which is basically kind of like a no man's land or a contested region. This is information that only I, as a dungeon master, need to know. But I know that my players will start to recognise which routes lead to which encounters. They might travel into the territory of the Froglings, and if they do, it's likely that the encounters that they roll will involve them to some degree. Though there could be other options too. So I've always talked about just doing like a D6 or a D8 random encounter chart, but for this idea, I feel like I'm going to recommend a 2d6 random encounter chart. And the reason why is because the probability curve dictates that it's more likely that you're going to roll in the center of the chart. You know, on a 2d6, it's going to be like a 6 to a 9, right? It's probably your more likely thing to roll based on probability. These encounters can be the more typical ones that you would expect, like a group of Frogling warriors, for example. But the 2 and the 12 on the 2d6 could be used to represent pretty cool, set piece encounters, maybe involving a faction leader or a henchman. You can include other encounters like fighting swamp beasts as well. And obviously here's an example on the screen, kind of showing what the Frogling one could be like. But you could also include some of the other factions as well if they're nearby. And if you're rolling too many of the same, you could always set the rule that every time they complete an encounter, a -2 is added to the result of any subsequent roll before a long rest. And then after that one, it's like a -4, -6. It just kind of correlates and adds up. So eventually there will be a set piece encounter, if that makes sense. That sounds like Shadows of War to me. If any of you guys have played the game, if you want to fight against the war chief, you've got to kind of fight some captains first. You got to kill them. You got to lure out the big bosses of the orcs if you wanna fight them. You can't just go straight to them. These dynamic charts can obviously change over time and evolve with your players, not just for balance, but to represent their influence on the region. And by their influence, I mean the party's influence. If they've been causing a lot of problems for the Harpies, for example, it's likely that a new encounter might be added to the list. A group of Harpies being led by a siren who can actually lure the men of the party towards them with an enchanting song. That sounds pretty cool, right? Developing dynamic factions will work really, really well for higher level play too, especially if you allow your players to build strongholds and own land and stuff like that. And I know a lot of you guys are very interested in that, especially if you're somebody who kind of likes what Matt Colville's been doing, or you're a big fan of Beckme. Like, you know, base building's really cool. It's likely that, you know, the players will not be the only faction in the region that they're building their base, so you can develop some dynamic factions to kind of add excitement. You know, they've got to, if they want to be able to build settlements, other villages around their castle, then they're going to have to deal with the local tribes people, or the bugbears, or whatever. And you know, I obviously I know that a lot of you guys are really interested in me doing like a stronghold video, but I haven't really decided yet what stronghold system I want to use. And I've been thinking about kind of working on my own system, kind of taking things that I like from like Beckme and like Strongholds and Followers. If any of you know of any other cool stronghold building books, I know there's also like Downtime and is it Demens? I always say it wrong. Downtime and Domains, right? Yikes. I would cut that out, but I'm probably not going to. But I'll probably make a full video on the subject, so hopefully that'll be something that you guys look forward to. One thing that I haven't included on my territory map that I showed you guys earlier was faction strongholds, and the reason why is a lot of my players watch my videos. I don't want them seeing shit that they shouldn't see. But it's definitely something I plan on adding to my version I'm going to use, and I plan on working on that. I love the idea that the Froglings have like spawning grounds that they defend, and these strongholds could make for a very interesting challenge, especially for higher level parties to tackle. They could outright attack it using powerful magic, or they could march in with hirelings and soldiers that they have under their command. I'm planning on dynamically kind of changing my factions over playtime, and I was considering actually working on like a D100 events chart, where, you know, after every downtime or time skip, I just roll a couple of D100s and I just see kind of what changes in the area. Like, you know, this faction attacks this faction, this happens, that happens. Just, you know, some random events. And I don't know if there's already a system out there like this, but, you know, if that sounds like something that would be really interesting to you, like a system, it wouldn't be for a specific TTRPG. It would just be for, you know, for any TTRPG, but like a system where you can roll dice and you could have your world kind of change, and it'd be quite low fantasy, so you could use it in any campaign setting, really. You know, if you want to make it more high fantasy or fantastical, you can, right? But it could just be like an army is approaching. You know, that could be an event. And the army could be anything. It could be bugbears, it could be orcs, it could be humans, it could be elves, dwarfs, it could be anything, right? It could be any size. It could be a few hundred men, it could be a few thousand, it could be Sauron's army coming to destroy Middle-earth, right? Like, it could really be anything. But, you know, another one could be like an outbreak starts of a awful disease, like a plague begins. Yeah, these could be like the more serious events. Maybe there's like minor ones too that aren't going to be as problematic. But I thought that would be quite cool, right? And if it's not for a specific TTRPG, then I feel like you guys will get a lot of value out of it. I know that, especially nowadays, everybody's playing different stuff, right? There's so many good TTRPGs out there. And you guys, I think it's funny, somebody new joined the Discord recently and said that I'm basically like a old school, what was it that they said? It was like I'm like a 5e OSR hybrid channel. And it's kind of true, right? Like, obviously I started playing 5th edition 10 years ago, and that was really my first time playing a TTRPG. I used to LARP a bit in the UK before I really got into D&D, funnily enough. But 5e was really my first experience, and yeah, now I feel like I'm going backwards, right? I'm really, you know, hitting it off with you OSR players, all you guys, all you all you dudes and dudettes. It's cool, man. It's really cool. But anyway, you know, like, I'm definitely interested in doing that system. If that's something that you guys would be interested in seeing, let me know. And as you guys can see, I haven't really been sticking to a point today. Usually I'm very thorough with my points in a video, but I've just been kind of shooting the shit with you guys. If you like this kind of style, let me know. If you don't, let me know. Obviously I don't have a beard. I started to shave. I just wanted to see what I look like without a beard, and I realised I look like I'm fucking 18 again. It's crazy, man. It's great. You know, I've got a baby face, man. It's good. It's good. It's good to look young when, you know, you get older and you're like, fuck, I look really old. And I hope I don't flip, you know, when I'm like 35 and overnight look like I'm 50. But, you know, we'll see. Anyway, you know, thanks for watching today's video, guys. Obviously, I've shot the shit with you a little bit longer than I should have. But make sure you join the Discord if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support the channel, like to support me, you're very welcome to sign up to the Patreon. We've got like a $3 tier, gives you access to a lot of charts and tables from lots of the various videos that I've done over the last, what, 6 months or so. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time on Loki's Lair. Until then.